Well, from last week to where we are today, I thought our guys put in another good work week. From an injury standpoint, everybody that was with us last week will be with us on Saturday. We do get Henry Boyer back. He's practiced all week, and excited to get him. Magnus Moeller, who wasn't with us last week, actually practiced with us. Whether or not he's going to go on a trip, we'll make that decision. But he's back and practiced, and everybody else should be good to go. Super excited to see these guys continue to grow. Unbelievable environment, opportunity to go into Penn State and see where we're at. But with that, open up for questions.
Potentially a small thing, but what impact does playing on grass for the first time this
Yeah.
year have?
Yeah, we know one of the great things that happened when we came here, that beautiful grass field that we look at every day out of my office, they never really used that. I was told it was cursed, but we did some irrigation checks and realized there was a cracked pipe. So we fixed that, and we've been able to practice on grass all the way the last 2 years, really. Spring ball, fall camp, we get in there. We usually go on grass on Tuesday and Wednesday. Defense sometimes goes on there on Thursday as well. So we've been playing on it. Penn State, because of the way they play, right, it's obviously an unbelievable surface, like literally one of the best that you'll play on a grass surface in college football. So the thing that it'll play into Saturday, it looks like the rain is up to 75% for Saturday at the game. The last 2 weeks we've been preparing for rain, and it kind of fizzled out on the weekend, but this one looks like it's going to hold true, so I think that'll be the true story.
How do you think Penn State's offense is maybe a little bit different this year compared to last year?
Well, obviously the new coordinator, there's different functions, different features, multiple personnel groupings. I think their tight end number 44 might be the best tight end in the league, and just really they use him in a variety of different ways. He's lined up as a fullback, as a quarterback, as a tight end, as a slot, as a third receiver. I think he's really using their personnel uniquely different, but which is his MO, right? So both running backs are extremely effective. They use two quarterback systems, so the multiplicity of their offense is very evident.
Playing their coordinator last year at Kansas, is that a part of the prep at all for this week?
Well, there's always carryover. They have actually three new coordinators: offense, defense, special teams. So I think as anything in college football, you always look at what they're doing, but also what they've done. For us, the opening game against West Virginia, obviously we were able to take a peek at that, and then the second game against Ball State out there, which was huge because it's in their environment, and obviously last week Kent State. Even though the second half, there was only a limited amount of that game you could use, but I think you always look at anybody's pass.
How do you put in perspective? I know Miles is 2 years now at safety, but how do you put in perspective the switch and the level he was able to play at now?
I appreciate the question. It's actually a year and 4 games, right? I mean, my biggest regret, I always say this as a coach, like sometimes I see things, feel things, and I struggle with he was paying for his own way, so I didn't want to move him, but my biggest regret was not to do this a year earlier, because the growth you're seeing now could have been just happened that much quicker. But that's a position that, unfortunately, the only way at free safety you get good at playing free safety is by game speed reps. You can simulate in practice, but they're in the same read and break. But Miles is so intelligent. He's changed his body. Now he looks like a DB in what he does. So yeah, I mean, obviously Xavier's getting a lot of attention. Matt's played well, but those three guys in particular, I think, are playing at a really high level.
What kind of relationship do those three have to kind of operate at full capacity?
Yeah, Miles is the communicator. He's our green dot, right? So the relationship he has with Aaron is special, but he does, I think, do a great job of transmitting the calls to the other secondary players, tipping them off to things before they happen. Miles I think because he played wide receiver, he knows what a cut split is. He knows why you get in a cut split. He knows why a guy's lined up with two at speed. He knows why someone's lined up close to the boundary. So the understanding is kind of on the flip side of it. Isaiah Williams, I think when he lined up at wide receiver, everything he had learned at quarterback helped him so much. When guys play mirrored positions to the one they're playing, it's extremely beneficial.
Coach, last time you went to State College, it went well.
Yeah.
It went really well.
Uh-huh.
Does that come up? I know 3 years ago. Does that come up at all or not?
Well, we had guys on this plane that
Right.
were on that plane, right? So there's natural carryover, but I think just two completely different teams. Barry wasn't even with us as an offensive coordinator. Aaron was the DB coach, right? So there's a lot that has happened, but I think you're always defined by things of your past, right? Like good, bad, or indifferent. The fun thing for our guys is I think you guys have asked them questions. Listen, the past is the past. They've learned from it, and it's part of who they are. But I think they've left the past in the past. So
Sure.
I really don't see any different this week.
Is there some things you did like that trip in terms of travel or whatever that you kind of want to repeat this time? Are you like that superstitious?
I would say since I came here in 4 years, we really don't vary much on what our schedule is or how we do it.
Sure.
We may tweak something here or there. But our our itinerary, for this trip, I literally, if we do a repeated trip, I took the trip that we did from that last time just as a skeleton,
Okay.
right? But it's an evening game, and there's a lot of other factors that we're at a different hotel. So there's a lot of different variables that don't carry forward, but how we've done things this week are very similar to what we've done last week, just
Okay.
because it was a road game in the Big Ten.
Do you sense like a confidence boost after Nebraska going into this week, or is it just another day in the office?
Well, I mean, I think from the outside world looking in, it's easy to ask that question. Our guys really just focus on now, but like I always tell our coaches, like what our guys hear when they leave this building is dependent on what they want to hear, right? Like they're I'm sure being told in class they've done a good job. I'm sure their parents are telling them that, right? And that's very true. But there are so many things from last week's game that we need to make an improvement on this week. Even today, it's a Thursday practice, right? And it wasn't a perfect practice. It was good, but the blessing was things happened today that we need to correct for Saturday. The true blessing was it didn't happen on Saturday night.
But when you talk about leaving the past in the past, I would assume it's a process to kind of ingrain that. So how did you guys as a staff do that?
Yeah, that's I think part of leaning on the guys that have been here. So I know you heard me say it, but 120-man roster, 45 new guys. Those guys that had been here and done that had to be the catalyst to make those guys understand what we're going through. Like Dennis Briggs looks like a guy who's been in our program for 3-4 years, right? Just how he goes about his things and does his things. So that's what I kind of use as a staple. J.C. Davis, Melvin Priestley. To this point, Luke Altmaier, right? It's a second-year starter. He's just so much more comfortable with how we're doing things. Those things didn't happen by chance. But I think just the daily approach, I think our guys really buy into what we're saying, how we're saying it. Obviously, this weekend is going to be a huge moment because of the moments they've made to this moment. And I think our guys understand that process.
With this being the fourth night game you played at 5, I mean, do you feel like tailoring camp the way you did has paid off?
Yeah, I'd probably make that assessment at the end, but I like the way our guys handle their business. I like this one because now you got something to do on Saturday during the day, like Friday in Lincoln. You can only watch Days of Your Lives so many times, right? And to have a game day on game day, we'll do what we always do. We have a brunch, then we actually will. I let them watch college, kickoff shows. We go up till about 11:15. We start meetings for about a half hour. Then we'll go to the stadium, whether it's raining or not. We'll go to Penn State Stadium and kind of do a little modified walkthrough. Go in the locker room, see it. Our kickers and quarterbacks, they go to the stadium on Friday night so they can see the game or see the stadium at night. Always have done that with specialists, but it's something Luke wanted to do. So, of course, attributed that to just a kid that really wants to make himself better.
But they have such a good defensive front. How do you feel like your tackles in particular have kind of risen to the moment?
Guards and tackles, I agree. 11's a really good player. Anybody that wears 11 in that program is always good, right? But I think interior, their defensive linemen are at a high level of, they're explosive, they're productive, they're smart, they're intelligent, they play really hard. I think our front in this ball game is going to be on both sides of the ball tested as hard as they have.
Thank you, guys.